All right, I've got my bung holes welded. I've got a good news, bad news, good news situation. I've got my own skew. How cool is that? Let's pause right here. Why is the fuel pump not working now? I don't hear it. When I start it, I don't hear it. I can guarantee you I know what it is. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Rennch, and happy holidays to everybody. Now, on the last episode, I gave you quite a cliffhanger. Now, I realize I completely hosed you guys, and I gotta be honest. Of the 150 plus videos I've done on this channel, that was easily my favorite ending I've ever done. So I apologize, and I kinda don't. So sorry, not sorry. Now I will give you what you want right away and completely hose any hope I have of any algorithm love. But if you know this channel and the 150 plus videos I've done, I don't get any algorithm love anyway, so who cares? Let's listen to this bad boy. I mean, wow. Can we talk about how smooth and buttery that sound is? I didn't really know why it was revving at super high RPM before, but I plugged some of the vacuum inlets on the air intake and then it smoothed everything out to 800 RPM. So it just sounds amazing. It's super smooth. Last night, I started buttoning up a lot of the practical stuff. Running wires, putting heat shrink on, getting the carpet back in, getting my footboard in. I've got to mount my seat. So the most major part remaining of the install is to get the radiators installed, which is why I didn't run it very long. It has no cooling to it. I've got to make a few decisions in terms of how I want to run the hoses from the engine and how I want the hoses to exit the engine. So there's a few things I have to do now that it's actually in the car and I can do it in situ. Let's do a quick walkthrough and I'll show you where I am and where we're going to be by the end of the video. Starting at the back of the engine, I have my wideband sensors and I've got to weld some bungs onto my headers, so I'm going to have to pop those off. And I'd love to get some Cerakote on those as well. You can see that I've started to install this crossover tube on the cooling. There's a T here, so one of the hoses will go down and then around the engine back to the front of the radiators. Everything else is pretty solid in this engine compartment. Everything needs to be zip tied and buttoned up and that kind of thing, but overall, pretty happy with how everything is in the engine compartment. Moving into the cabin, I have installed the footboard. I've put the carpeting in. I've gotten rid of a bunch of the wires and buttoned everything up here. It's basically just waiting for a seat. Then I'll have to run a couple wires up front to control the fans based on the temperature of the car. Now that I've modded the CSF drag radiators, they will go into this spot here, but you can see I still have a giant gaping hole that has to be welded. So I will have to weld some sheet metal into that bad boy. Here, I'm going to have to fabricate some sort of battery mount. I think I'm going to do it over here because this is where the spare tire needs to go. So somewhere along these lines, I'm going to do some sort of battery mount, probably with this little Odyssey Extreme battery. And then I accidentally clipped a wire here when I was cutting the hole on this side. That's going to be a bit of a pain because these wires are pretty tightly bundled and they don't give me a lot of room to play with. So I'm going to probably have to peel it back all the way to here to get the offending wire, extend it, run it back underneath, and then plug it in. Last night while it was running, I was able to shift it through the gears, and I can definitely tell that my clutch is not adjusted well, so I'm going to have to deal with that. And the other thing is, my initial plan here, basically I have the mount, the drive-by-wire pedal mounted on this Rennline footboard, but the Rennline footboard is just not stiff enough. It's really moving too much for my liking. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to like really affix this thing to the car so it doesn't flex as much as it is right now. So that is another bit of engineering I'm gonna have to deal with. All right, so I'm trying to figure out the order of operations here. I think I'm gonna go seat first, then adjust the clutch. The clutch has not felt good since I've installed it. Now you want that like initial firm feel, then it evens out. It's just always felt kind of mushy to me, and I don't know why. I haven't done a clutch adjustment in ages in a vintage Porsche, so it could be that. But I'm gonna get the seat in first just so I can sit and put like real leverage on it and just see how my muscle memory feels with how the clutch is supposed to feel. I'd rather do that now, and if I have to pull the engine out and adjust the clutch for some reason, I'd rather do that before I get all of the cooling hoses and stuff installed. I think once I do that, I'm probably gonna pull the headers and get the O2 bungs installed, because then I can Cerakote them and get them drying while I go do the rest of the stuff. Oh, boy, does that not feel good at all. Oh, okay. So good news about the clutch, I think. It was way looser than I thought it was. So I'm gonna fire the car up, try to put it in reverse, which did not go well the last time I tried it. And if it works, then we are good to go. I'm gonna tick it off the list. Set up on the TIG table. Gonna give this thing another go. You know me and TIG welding. We get along so well. But this is the right application. I'm gonna go for it, and hopefully it won't be too much pigeon poop. All right, we got the bung welded in. It's pretty good. It looks way better than the MIG welds I did for the flange. Hey guys, happy Christmas Eve. It is rainy and cold today. So, a couple things since you've last seen me. I put one coat of, this is actually my favorite VHT high heat paint on this. I was going to Cerakote it, but I just don't have time. And I didn't want to try to shoot when it was so kind of miserable, and it's kind of that misty cold, so it's like we're inside a cloud and it's just kind of chilly. I realize many of you are in really cold places in the world, and I get it, but you know, 41, 42 in California with some water is pretty chilly for me. Anyway, so here's what we're gonna do. These are quite chilly and they need at least another coat. So I'm gonna use my DIY Cerakote oven to preheat them. I'll spray them outside, then I'm gonna put them back in the oven and just get them to kind of bake off a little bit and be warm. But look how nice they turned out. They look really good. I'm very excited about it. And here's my, here's the bungs I just welded on. So pretty happy with the whole thing. In the meantime, while these things are gonna be kind of drying, I need to sort of retool my cradle. And I just stopped by one of the big box stores and they didn't have the steel I wanted, so I'm gonna have to find something in my shop to steal some square tubing, kind of that rectangular 2-inch tubing. I know I have a little cart out there that's kind of rusty that I have that tubing on, so I may have to kind of refurbish it. But I do want to use that tubing to basically relocate what's happening on my cradle, give myself a little bit more room so I can route the hoses that I need. All right, ideal temperature is between 55 and 75 degrees. These are probably a little warmer at this point. 96. That's okay. This stuff goes on so smoothly, it's why I love it. I'm gonna eventually sandblast all this stuff and Cerakote it anyway, but for now, 77, 76, perfect. Always smart to grab a light. It really is. You really can see the parts you've missed. And I missed a bunch. All right, I'll just let these bake for 20 minutes or so, and they should be good to go. So I just went from this to this. This is using that drum sander that Harbor Freight has, and I'll show you guys the process. But all I do is hit the welds with a flap disc and then roll this thing through the drum sander, which is such a magical tool that it can turn that into that. And man, what a tool to have in the garage. How awesome. All right, we are under the car, and what I'm doing now is making some modifications to the already very modified Cradle. What I've done so far is I've cut the front here off. You can see where the thermostat is going to come out. It's going to interfere. I had all of this stuff here that was interfering with the header and with this line that's going to come out. So what I'm doing is cutting this center section out here, and I'm putting another one from this point to this point. Okay, so here's the other side. All right, so here's the other side. You can see I've got the 4 mounting points, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I've got this thing mounted to the back, so that way I have full adjustability in the front. I will cap this, obviously, and I may end up actually capping that end as well, just to reinforce the strength. And this is just a much better, more flexible arrangement than I had before. And this is obviously very handmade, but when we get it dialed, we can use it as the mounting points to make the custom laser cut version of this, and it will be perfect. I've got a good news, bad news, good news situation. I was able to get a bunch of work done on Christmas night. One of the benefits of being solo during Christmas is you crank on projects. So I was able to finish not only painting the headers, but I was able to finish the Cradle as well. And this is where the good news, bad news, good news situation is. Good news is, finish the Cradle. Looks fantastic. I did have some issues on the passenger side where I couldn't quite grind off the welds from the old support. And I had a couple of really gnarly incidents with the sander getting hooked and blasting out of my hands and hitting me in the arm a couple times. And thankfully I had tons of PPE on and I was safe, but it happened like 2 or 3 times, and after the third, I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave a little bit of extra weld on there. I'm not super worried about it. So the good news is, Cradle's done and pretty much welded up. I think I could probably use one more bead on the inside. Bad news is, my headers no longer line up with the muffler. And I don't know why that is. I think the whole engine is a little higher, which is what the good news is. It was sitting too low compared to what I had hoped for, and somehow or another, it is now as high as I want it to be. So what I'm hoping, fingers crossed, is that my original headers that I did for the original Lacestern 1 build, the one that I actually made the jig for, will actually line up with where the engine is now, which is where it was supposed to be in the first place. So we're gonna give that a go, first things first, and fingers crossed that it actually fits. The downside of that is that I'm gonna have to drill hole and re-weld the bungs on for the O2 sensors, which I haven't done on the new ones yet. Cool. Perfect. Let's go, bro. This is a little off, but that's okay. All right, good news. These Cerakoted headers that I did long before this match up pretty brilliantly, actually. The one on the other side's a little bit off, just because I think everything is handmade and not laser cut, and it's just me, you know? But this thing looks pretty good. I am going to go with this. That should be both of these things ticked off the list. All right, I've got my bung holes welded. So here's the deal. With TIG welding, if you looked at these, if you looked at just this side, you'd go, oh wow, he did a pretty good job. Look at that. It's nice and clean, it's tight, like dab, 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 it looks pretty good. And then bam, a hole got blown in it, and it looks like a giant hokey pile of pigeon poop. Thankfully, this is not Instagram, and I don't have to impress anybody with my pigeon poop welds, but it's just a bummer, man. It was a bummer because it was going so well, and then all of a sudden, blow, a total hole got blown in these. I don't know why. But this metal, this particular tube is thinner than this tube. And, you know, I just pooped it. Anyway, these are ready to go. I'm going to install them. And then I think I can check all of that stuff off the list and start working on the front of the car. So I'll pop these things together and then let's get into welding some panels on the front. All right. Passenger side patch panel is in and ready for some tacking. Okay, one down. I wanted to just show you this because it's going to be the exact same thing on the other side. And I will show you guys how I'm going to finish this. So there's my patch with one coat of Worth on it. Another coat, and that seam should pretty much disappear. I'm going to wrap it up for the day, but I'm always amazed at how long these things take. I started today at about 10 a.m. I'm 6 or 7 hours in, and I feel like I've only done a couple of things. All right, both battery boxes welded up. This is the driver's side. I'm going to work on relocating and mounting my battery now, and then we'll work on mounting these radiators before finally running the hoses and being done. Okay, progress, people. I've relocated the battery using the Rennch battery relocation kit. Really, I'm pretty much done with the frunk. I just gave the car a test fire, so all is still working the way it's supposed to. I'm going to consider this done and check it off the list. Next up, radiator mount. All right, back at it another day, and this could be a very exciting day. The last real piece of getting the kit installed is getting the radiators installed. Now, the ones that I'm installing in this one are the CSF drag radiators, which are this really thick, beefy, awesome looking radiator. And those aren't exactly the ones that are in the kit. We've spent a ton of time and money developing radiators for this kit that really have a very OEM feel to them. They look like if Porsche was going to do a water-cooled version of this car in 1973 or whatever, that these are the radiators that they would have chosen. They are effectively the same dimensions as the Porsche factory oil cooler. They are going to be made by CSF. I just got the sample at the end of November, and they will go into any really narrow body 911. Now, these are a little different because they're much wider. And I think they're a great option for if somebody has a wide body 911. I just happen to have these in stock, if you will, from the Blasphemy build. So I'm going to attempt to get them to work in this particular instance. I'm hoping I can get them to fit the way I hope they will. And I've obviously done a bunch of modification to get these things to work by welding on the bungs on the back side, plugging up the front side here. So what I have to do is make some brackets and then obviously make sure that I have enough tire clearance to put this big old radiator up front. Well, two of them, if you will. Back for another episode of good news, bad news. Although in this case, we're going bad news, then good news. Despite my efforts, I was unable to make the CSF drag radiators work. They were like a ½ inch too wide, even with the RSR flares. It's such a thick, girthy radiator that I couldn't squeeze it in, get enough wheel movement, and it just didn't work out well. Well, as luck would have it, timing is everything. My prototype radiators that we've been working on now for a year arrived in California at CSF, and I just drove the hour plus to Ontario to grab them. And I got to show you guys something right out of the gates, which is super cool. I've got my own SKU. How cool is that? Ren 1, baby. So these are the prototypes. They only made 4 of them. I have not seen them yet. And we're gonna look at them for the first time. You and me right now are gonna check this radiator out, and hopefully this becomes the radiator for the official kit. It's very exciting. All right, all the hardware's in there, awesome. Doing the official unboxing right now. So my idea was here, let me make them basically the form factor of the factory oil cooler, but let's make them a radiator. Seemed like a smart idea. Let's see. Looks like they're taped right here. They should be lovely pieces of kit. They take a Spall fan. They are obviously all aluminum, like a race radiator. And look at that. They fit right inside the wheel well. Did a couple really cool things. So basically, the way I set it up is that they're mirrored. So instead of having to have a right and a left, what we did is we just put brackets on that you can move from one side to the next. So this attaches to the headlight bucket. And then we've got bottom bosses for a bracket that I have to custom create. And then obviously this thing holds the top. And then you can choose if you want push fans or pull fans. Obviously made by Spall, S-P-A-L, and these should fit beautifully into the wheel well, pretty much for any narrow body or full size. They've got this really cool CSF logo on the side. I'll see if I can get a Rennch logo on there too. That'd be kind of fun. But then these things basically have threaded bosses just like I've had for the other ones. And I'm able to just thread in these -16 fittings on each side, and that gives us the in at the top that would go up in the fender, and the out on the bottom that would then run to the other radiator, and we complete the circuit and come back to the back of the car. So super exciting. Let's see if we can get these things mounted up. We'll put the protective outer cover back on and get to it. Okay, an hour or so later into Bracketville, a super simple 90-degree bracket mounts this. It's nice and firm. It's mounted up top on the back of the headlight bucket and basically goes through right here. And it's got the factory oil cooler bracket in there. I'll show you guys in a second on the other side. Really happy with how this thing looks. It's super solid. It's isolated on the top. I could probably stand to isolate it here on the bottom as well. And I'm going to order a Spall push fan on the front side to push the air through, just in case we get stuck in traffic and we need a little more airflow. All right, dudes. Driver's side in. Passenger side in. And now I can run my AN hose and get this show on the road, baby. Okay, offline, I have been messing around with trying to make sure that I have all the right fittings and the right hosage. And I think I do. I think I have exactly what I need. So I'm going to dig into this thing, get these lines run. I've got to do one little bit of a mod to my cradle. It's kind of interfering with the outlet of the thermostat over there. So I've got to trim it a little bit so I have a nice clean run. And then I can run that sucker up to the front to the other radiator. And I think that's about it. We're getting closer, I'll tell you that much. Okay, dudes, another day, another dollar. We are getting dangerously close. So last night I had a bit of a slog that I did offline. It was just things I had to do in a particular order. It was a huge pain in the nuts. It's not even quite done yet, but I'm gonna start with that today and then show you what I've got to do on the other side. So I've got a lot going on under here. This is where my overflow tank drains into this thermostat housing area. And I've had to drill it and put a set screw in there because this thing was falling out. So I had to deal with that. To do that, I had to pull my headers, and then I had the entrance to the thermostat with my big dash 16 hose here. All of this had to be disassembled, and while I had the header off, I figured a way to get the bung screw out, and now my O2 bung is where it's supposed to be. So I've got to finish reinstalling my headers and make sure everything's tight here. Then I'm going to take the headers off on the other side, get that bung filler screw out, and then I should be able to actually finish up the AN hoses. So I've got a fuel leak. You can see it drip, drip, drip. So I've got to replace this hose. I think it's just overpressurized or something in there, or maybe the clamp failed, or who knows. But more surgery, so I do not have a fuel leak all over the car and blow myself up. All right, so I got one in, got the hose running in that very factory way, down this edge and then to the back of the car. Now, ideally, I had an issue here where I have AC lines that are running, so it's all a little lower than I'm going to want it to be, and they were totally in the way here. So I should be able to get the entire hose behind the seam of the floor and make it virtually invisible, except for a little bit under the hump of the jack point there. But this side of the car is effectively done. I'm going to be creating a custom Rennch rock guard that will fit over this entire piece. Yeah, very exciting, everybody. All right, next morning, we are very close. It's the final countdown. One thing that dawns on me is how long this stuff takes. It's so funny. It's like I'm coming into the garage. It's 10:30 a.m. right now. Before I know it, it'll be 3 p.m. or 3:30 or whatever. I'm like, wow, I just did 5 hours on this. I'm hoping that won't be quite that long. I've got 5 fittings to make right now to put the hoses on. And one thing I'll say, it's kind of a half plug. They're a discount sponsor, but if you guys are ever looking for AN fittings, Racetronics is awesome. This is Racetronics. They're so good. They have like everything. This is a little breather filter for the engine that I'm going to do. Probably not today, but eventually. But they have like every AN fitting and tons of like fuel pumps, and they make my overflow tank for the radiators. They just have a lot of stuff. So if you are ever looking for anything related to like AN fittings or anything you really need to kind of build race car stuff on your car, definitely consider Racetronics. I'm gonna put my headphones on and dig into these 5 fittings right now, and then I'll take you guys for a tour before we start filling this thing with coolant. Well, I thought I'd be driving by noon, and it's 2:45, so that is how it goes in the garage. Man, I feel like I've gotten the workout of a century putting these fittings on, but I am up to the very last fitting. So first and foremost, if you're doing stainless steel fittings, you want to tape them, and I like this blue tape. I put the mark right in the middle of the tape so I know where to mark it when I get on the outside. I just do that like this. And you really want to secure it. The reason why you're taping it is because it stops all of the frays from coming, like all of the stainless steel fray, and you really want to get it in there. I do it enough so you can see the texture of the hose. So it's really on there, really trying to keep everything nice and tight. I will then mark it right in the middle because that is my mark. If you do a lot of these, I highly recommend some sort of respirator because the burning rubber and metal isn't the greatest thing in the world. So the other thing I do is I'm trying to let the blade do the work. Meaning I'm not trying to force it down because that's going to cause more frays. So I kind of just like ease it in there. You want to wear gloves because there are tons of these things really hurt when they poke out and go right into your hands. So you want to wear gloves. So what we've got, theoretically, this one looks good. It's a pretty clean cut. So to make things easier, I have found this WD-40 Specialist Gel Lube, and I hit the outside of the hose with it, and then I hit this part. So to do these, you've got a little outer sleeve. This thing is going to go inside the hose. This needs to go first. So I hit this thing. Now this is totally lubed on the inside. Got to put your gloves on. And I will say that Racetronics fitting, Racetronics hose, and these things have been really good so far, not fraying. If I do have some spots that are kind of frayed, which sometimes happens at the very end of the cut, I start with that side. So I kind of scoop it in that way, and I'm putting a lot of upward pressure, and now I'm putting down and twist, and we are good to go. So I'm on, and if you have a hard time, they're kind of like, the sleeves themselves kind of have a spiral on the inside. So what I like to do here is just take my little tool, also from Racetronics. They're getting all the plugs today. And I'm pushing this way, and I'm pushing down, and we're just looking for the hose to bottom out. I don't know if you can see that, but it's going to bottom out kind of on the inside and leave some thread. Next thing I do is soak the inside threads. So I soak the inside threads and this piece with this same lube. And you got to start muscling. So you got to push really hard on the inside and try to get this thing to engage. And this is where all the muscles... I could barely sleep last night. My arms were so sore. I think I'm in. Am I in? Is that easy? No. You'll feel it bite. That should go. Yeah, I'm sweating. Faux show. Yeah, so now we're in. And after a few turns, it's going to get too hard to do it. And you're going to need the next piece of kit, which is, these are aluminum vise jaws for AN fittings. And what you do is they have an octagonal cut in them so that you can lean this thing right in here and securely tighten it. And I need two tools for this. One is this one, which is this. These are special wrenches for AN fittings. I also have the full Racetronics one as well, but at some point this short handle doesn't give you enough leverage and you need a big boy. I'm going to give this thing as many turns as I can. It's actually pretty good. What I did though, went to Harbor Freight and I bought a big old hunk of adjustable, just in case I need to crank on these things a little more. I have used it a ton during this process because it's nice to have this much leverage, but feel pretty good about it. So now I have the final fitting for the Grey Ghost for the front end. Let's go put it on. All right, dudes, so we are really getting down to nitty-gritty here. I've got the entire cooling system completely buttoned up now. Offline, I put a few of the components back on the engine and just buttoned all that stuff up. What I'm going to do now, though, is a nut and bolt check. This whole car has been so majorly disassembled. I'm sure I left a few things loose, maybe an AN fitting, maybe a 13 millimeter bolt, maybe a 10 millimeter bolt, Maybe something needs to be zip tied, like a wire that's going to interfere with something. So I'm going to go around the car with my trusty flashlight and dig all over it. I'm going to double check all my fittings, double check all my nuts and bolts, double check all my wires, make sure everything's plugged in the way it's supposed to be. All right, dudes. Nerve-wracking moment number 1500 is I just lowered the car all the way down just to make sure that the wheels cleared the hoses internally, and they do, which is great. And then the other thing I was concerned about is how low does the engine sit compared to the Porsche, you know, undercarriage, and it's pretty much spot on. So when the thing is all the way down, the oil pan and the cradle are pretty much in line with the bottom of the banana arm suspension. So I think it looks really good. So I've jacked the car up so the front is tilting down. And I did that because this way, this filling area here, my overflow tank, which has the cool Rennch logo on it, is now a foot higher than the highest part of the loop in the front fender there. So that way I hopefully will eliminate as much of the air pocket as I can. And I'm sort of in this quandary now. Do I just go ahead and throw coolant in here, or should I put some distilled water in, check for leaks, run it for a second and see how it goes? And I think I'm inclined to do the latter. And then I don't know if I can then just sort of pop it off and drain it. Well, what do you guys think? Should I just send it? I mean, I have a couple of... Maybe I should just send it, guys. Let's just send it. That's what we do around here, right? What's the difference? If I blow it and lose some coolant, it'll be $13. Now, if Creality ends up sending me a 3D printer, I'm probably going to end up printing some sort of like S-tube here where you can fill this filler neck here without having to like do any Olympic level stuff. Drink, little one. All right, I've just started and run it a little bit and let the coolant go to where it goes. And it looks like it's staying where it is now. Getting a little smoke from this left bank. I'm hoping it's just because the thing hasn't run in 2 years. So that'll hopefully clear out. But I don't know. My laptop's dead at the moment. Normally the move would be to just hook the laptop up and run it and see if it's going to run. But if I adjusted the clutch right, maybe I can just run it around the block and see what happens. Well, I've got a taped hood, taped headlights, and a taped windshield, none of which are very secure in the car right now. But I feel like most SEMA cars are just as unfinished. I don't even know if my clutch is adjusted well enough to drive it. But let's see what happens. Fire extinguisher is with me. All right, I'm in gear. It feels good. First feels good. Okay. Start. E-brake off. Oh God, I'm moving. I'm moving. Oh, and it just died. Okay, but that's okay. I moved. Got a little hesitation. Am I out of gas? Still moving. I'm moving, you guys. Okay. It's like a little rough. I don't know why. Under load, it's a little weird. It's stalled. Okay. All right. All right. But I moved out of the garage. It's a good start. Be right back. Okay, trying again. Nothing's on fire yet. Got a shift start. Runs really nice for the first couple seconds. Oh, so I gotta shut this. Forgot to close my ducktail. All right, try this one more time. Seems like it's like something's happening a couple seconds into the run, which is probably all hull tech. Okay, something's really, really weird. So it runs beautifully and then it just stops. So that's weird. I don't know if he's gonna try to go around or not. Am I out of gas? Go around. I'm stuck. It's just dying on me right there. Starting and then dying. I feel like I've got an ECU thing happening. Let me double check the car though. All right, so I feel like I have an ECU thing happening, which means I really need to hook my laptop up to this thing. Can you go around? Sorry. No, it's the first start in 3 years. So I just wanted to see if I could get it to go, but I think I'm having an ECU issue. Give me a second to see if I can get it to work. Thank you. Damn, it was beautiful 1 minute ago. Shit. Shit. Pause right here so I can clean up behind it. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
You want to help get the rest of the way, or?
No, I'm gonna
Okay.
clean all that nonsense up off the floor.
All right. Good luck to you.
Appreciate it, man. Happy New Year. So close. So all I can surmise there, first of all, thank you to Officer Johnson for helping me out. Like, you always be like, where's the cop when I need one? He literally pulled up right behind me as I was going. Probably felt great that I had no license plate. Anyway, it has to be an ECU issue. I didn't have my laptop on there, but the fact that the whole thing just completely cut out while I was driving after it was running beautifully tells me that something happened in the ECU, and maybe there was some sort of shutdown command that said, like, don't run this thing anymore because things are bad. So I'm gonna power up my laptop and plug it in, give it a run, and see kind of what's happening. I don't know a ton about ECU stuff, but at the very least, maybe Haltech can give me a hand and help me out with it. So that smooth startup and rev tells me this has to be ECU related. I mean, that just started up beautifully, it ran beautifully. I was worried that my negative ground came off my fuel pump, but definitely not that. Charging the laptop up now, and I might give this another go tomorrow morning. Otherwise, I'm just gonna stick this video out, and the next video is going to be the official driving video. I can count on one hand the number of times in the 4 years that I've been here at this address that cops have been just driving around this neighborhood. It's a nice neighborhood, it's pretty safe, and we just don't have a lot of police presence around here. Leave it to me that the very first time I try to pull this car out of the garage, it stalls in the middle of the street, no rear bumper, so no license plate, no registration on it. I pull it out in the middle of the street, the windshield's taped on, it's got no working headlights. Pull out in the middle of the street, it stalls, and wouldn't you know, it's a cop behind me. It's like, really, dude? Thankfully, he was super cool and helped me push it back in the garage. Now, I've spent a couple hours tinkering around with the car to find out what's going on. Had a dude in the Haltech tuning group, shout out to DeAndre Williams, who literally remoted into my computer and helped me tweak some things. But here's what we identified. On this particular engine, we've got two cams up top. The left-hand cam is run by the home signal. So the crank signal and that cam are basically what starts the car up. And that's what makes it run. It's the other cam that when you try to get on it and you actually start driving it, you get it up to temperature, that the ECU needs to make sure that the cams are in the right place as it's running the engine. The problem is that the right side cam is not connected, or it shows really, really low voltage. Now that is once again good news and bad news. The good news is I know the wire that I'm looking for, and last night I traced the wire from the ECU to the plug, and that one looks good. What I have yet to do is trace the wire from the engine side plug to the actual sensor. Tried replacing the sensor last night, that wasn't it. So it's possible that the pin on the plug has pulled out, or for some reason it's disconnected and not getting the right signal. So that's what we're gonna do now, is we're gonna try to diagnose. It's literally one single wire that's preventing this thing from ripping around the neighborhood. So I'm gonna work on that now. I've got a couple of hours. It's gonna be little gross, tedious, close work. I may end up doing a partial engine drop just to give myself some breathing room. Not a huge deal, it's 4 bolts. But that's what I'm gonna work on right now. And I'm not gonna bother you guys with it. It's just gonna be me literally unlooming this wiring harness and seeing if the wire is connected to the right spot. If it is, great. If not, meh. And then we'll see in a sec. I thought this was a worthy, teachable moment. What I need to do is check that this plug, which is like the main engine harness plug over here, it goes to the ECU. It's the engine side of the engine harness plug, actually reaches the sensor that it's supposed to. So to do that, I'm going to check continuity. This is my Klein multimeter I got, I think, from Home Depot. And on the multimeter, there's a thing that looks like, it almost looks like a Wi-Fi symbol. I don't know if you can catch this, but it is like right there. It looks like a Wi-Fi symbol. And if you touch the leads together, it makes a noise. So that's telling me that there's a closed circuit here. So what I need to do is I need to put one end in the plug on this side and the other end in the plug on this side and test that they're actually connecting and I hear a noise. And this plug is crazy tiny. So I have this big blown up version of what the plug looks like. I'm looking right now at number 20 is what I need to identify. And it needs to be the green signal wire. So this is a 3-pin wire on the engine side. So I'm going to try to plug one end into the middle. And hopefully it does what it does. Well, I might have to double hand this one. So let me get the other side into number 20 first. For this, I need glasses because it's freaking super tiny. So number 20 is right there, I think. And then if I can somehow maneuver my way. Okay, you hear that? That means this wire at number 20 is actually getting to the spot. And in a way, it's sort of good news and bad news. I was hoping it wasn't going to make that noise because that would tell me that somewhere there's like a break in the wire. So now we have to figure out why is the cam not getting the signal. Okay, come on, baby. Come on, baby. Give me 5 volts in the middle. Give me 5 volts in the middle. Come on, baby. Give me them 5 volts. Give me them 5 volts in the middle. Come on now. Come on now. Give me what daddy wants. Give me that right there. Come on now. Come on. Just hook it up. Hook it up to 5, baby. Come on. God. Oh no, come on. You're supposed to, wait, is the car on? Did I turn the car on? Car's on. Come on, you should work, bro. But you should work, bro. There's no way that that's not the issue. Okay, look at this completely dismantled. I've spent so many hours trying to find out why I'm not getting 5 volts to that particular sensor. We've ended up with, let's change the wire. So in the software, which is here, we've changed this gray with brown to a gray with black. Now the challenge here is I have to find the gray with black. This thing is all loomed up and the spare wires are somewhere. So I have to pull my tire off and kind of trace the loom back, untape it, and see where the spare wires are held so that I can then pin that wire, pull the other one from the other spot, stick that one in the right spot, and hopefully that sends 5 volts to that signal and all is well. And then I have to completely reassemble all this stuff. But that's how my Sunday's been. What have you guys been up to? Okay, another couple of hours of futzing around here. I was trying to assign this wire to that pin. So I was messing around with the ECU and going back and forth. And I kept assigning different wires, this original one, and going back and forth. And then I flipped back to this one, and now I have 5 volts. I just tested it at the plug. So literally, I didn't do anything except mess with the ECU. I've done everything else inside this engine, including trying to swap out this pin, but I didn't have the right tool this morning, so I'm glad I didn't, because that would have been a pain. I think I'm gonna try to just reassemble it and see if it works. Give me my 5 volts. Let's go 5 volts, no whammies. No whammies. Just be 5 volts so I can drive this car, for crying out loud. Come on, you guys. We've come so far. Oh no, that's on the wrong thing. Come on, just be 5 and stop being as a nudge, as Grandma used to say. Come on. Why? Oh wait. Oh, 502. Let's go. Let's go 5 volts. Come on. Okay. Wow, that was so easy. Well, glory be, everybody. This thing has been running for longer than I've ever run it. And I've got my boy actually tuning this thing as we go. I want to say he's in the Bahamas or something. But he's actually literally like tuning this thing live while it's running. I don't know what he's doing right now, to be honest. I'm looking at my coolant temperature sensor, which is at 169 degrees, meaning that these radiators are actually doing something. Let me see if I can feel them, see if there's anything happening there. Yeah, they're not really feeling anything, but I don't have any fans on those yet. So I just want to show you guys really quick. If I flip to the dash, there's the coolant temperature sensor, battery voltage, RPMs, my map. Hold on, buddy, hold on. He keeps changing it. This has got everything I need right here, and you can actually make this thing remote and mobile if you need to. So you can sort of track this along as you are driving. All right, I feel like we've been here before. I'm actually going to add some coolant to the system because I didn't think it had enough in it anyway, and it started getting to about 100 degrees Celsius, which is like boiling point. So it was time to, I think, add more coolant. Maybe I'll jack the car up like I was doing before just to get the air bubbles out. But right now, I grabbed a pump from Harbor Freight. I feel like I had one of these before, but I don't know where it is. So I've got basically nothing in my overflow tank right now. So the coolant overflow tank has this tube on it where I can see the level of fluid inside. And that's what I'm checking right now. Kind of feeling like you can't go high enough here, you know? Now I'm, well, weirdly, more. I don't know how that would be, but okay. I'm going to start it and get the car to start cycling. Man, I can't believe how lovely this thing's running though. Holy moly. Okay, we're going to try this again, boys. All right, trying this again. I feel better. I got a seatbelt on this time. That must mean I'm serious. Okay. Oh, come on. would it not start? I don't hear a fuel pump. Come on, man. Can I just get one thing to work? Why is the fuel pump not working now? I don't hear it. When I start it, I don't hear it. No real explanation there. It just didn't work, and I put my e-brake on, and then it worked. Oh no, it just died. Why would it do that? Why would you die? Oh, come on, man. Oh God, what is wrong now? I just can't. Died. What if I'm out of gas? That could be. God, it just ran for so long. Why would it just die? This is so frustrating. It was perfect. It's been running perfectly. It ran for like 10 minutes. And now as soon as I pull it out, it dies. What is it about being under load? Why would that matter? That's so weird. Did this wire get toasted? This is so weird right now. I put my e-brake one notch, and now it's running. What are you talking about? All right. Which is why I can guarantee you I know what it is. So if I leave that on, I'm gonna have fuel. If I don't, I'm gonna not have fuel. Because the ground I connected is the one for the brake master cylinder. So it only is grounded when there's a brake on. So if I put my e-brake one notch, it's getting power or ground or whatever. And if I don't, then it's not. So it's shutting the fuel pump off. That's first of all bonkers. Second of all, I need to find a better ground. But let's drive this thing. Yeah. Okay, first drive, you guys. too much. A couple blocks from my house. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna set the camera up and try a couple of quick passes. I'm not gonna crazily get on it, but what I will say to you is that it's got some serious get up and go. Holy moly. Huge. Well, guys, we did it. I have to say that last 3 weeks, since you last saw me start the engine until now, has been one of the most trying, frustrating automotive experiences I've ever had, while simultaneously being probably the most compact amount of time that I've learned an incredible amount about all of this stuff, mostly about the ECU and a lot about wiring, a lot about patience. But I will tell you that the car rips. Like, I barely got on it. I don't even know what RPM I was at because I don't have the tach hooked up yet, but I mean, it has some get up and go. So if you're one of the people interested in this kit, I'm starting to take deposits. There's about a 4-ish month lead time right now. So if you are interested in it, just DM me. You know how to reach me at Rennch on Instagram or whatever. But it is so well worth the wait. Holy Toledo. I'm gonna give the Gray Ghost a much needed wipe down after literally months and months and months of neglect and dust and overspray and grease and oil and coolant and all the things. And I'll see you guys next time.